this computer. Okay.
Okay, and I got it. Okay. So yes, I had this feeling of that, you know, that shape, kind of rounded, off-white, kind of a light green, hollow, and it had these sort of like little starburst sort of textures on the top that were where you know, something could kind of poke through, and that feeling of kind of a calcium thin shelled type thing.
Oh.
So you know, almost like, you know, how coral has that kind of little starburst kind of thing on top.
Yeah.
And again, kind of round, oval, hollow, pale green. Couldn't tell how big it was, but in a black background, almost, you know, floating in many of them.
Almost like floating in space or something.
Well, yeah. So yeah, like I said, I wasn't very specific, but in the dream that I had this sort of bike chain kind of thing. And these, in a sense, were kind of that same sort of idea. And
so there's multiple.
So yeah, I mean, there multiples of them, you know, kind of floating in the black. And I can't read my writing. Hollow in the
snorkeling
center, and again that feeling of like something would come in this way and perhaps come out the other way. So it was that kind of torus feeling of energy going around through it. So that was sort of like the top view, and that would have been solid, those little starburst kind of things, and a bottom view where it was sort of puckered. And I think actually that's it. So it wasn't a very long one. Like I said, I got interrupted. Somebody came through my door, so that was kind of the end of that. So I mean, they were pretty.
Wow.
They were pretty, but yeah, I was thinking it sort of was more of a, you know, some sort of functional thing where it seemed like a filter, you know, some sort of filter.
Do you think you could make that into an artwork, Michele?
Probably could, actually. You know, but it is very much like that sea egg type of look, you know, where you get a sea urchin, you know, and yeah, which is, I actually find them really beautiful.
Yeah, so, it sounds really good. So maybe work them out in a drawing as like really in detail as how you perceive them. That would be really good.
Or photography.
Create something that you make photos that looks like that.
Or
photograph a sea urchin. Photograph a sea urchin and then change it to be what you saw.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was mine. I was so
cool. I like it.
Go somebody else.
Okay. Thanks. Rod, do you want to share?
Thank you. Yes, I'm not sure how to show my results on screen. I need to open it.
If you've opened it, then down below you see a green button with share. And then you select the document you want to share.
It's funny, it wasn't in my tray. All right, so I've got the green button, so I'll share a screen.
Yeah.
And, I see, yes. So I choose the one that I want.
Yeah.
All right.
Well done.
Everyone see
there it is. Wow.
Yep.
How did you get that?
I'd already on clicking on share, it showed all of my open
so you have to have it open in the background already,
do you? It would appear so, yes. So, right, so now how do I scroll down? Oh, I see. Just go have the mouse located in the middle. So my phase 2, my stage 2 was, I don't know what I was looking at, but it looked like something sliding on rails, a metal platform, and which was silver and had dark patches on it. And I was fairly clear on the shape of it. It ended up having nothing to do with the final concept, or very little to do with the final concept that I came up with. So I kept moving on. I recorded an AOL of railway lines and took an AOL break.
Mm-hmm.
And came back about an hour later. And then the next thing was there's a piece of paper floating down to the ground from high up in the sky, and it was just sailing back and forward in the wind. And so I recorded an AOL of a piece of paper floating in the air, and dropped the pen and took an AOL break, and came back to it 1.5 hours later. And this time I got a flying object in the air, which was also floating, but it had people inside. And it had white sails, and it was spinning around, and it was floating down to the ground in much the same way that the white piece of paper was. And then I thought, well, how do I relate this to the first image? So I thought maybe it's part of a rocket that takes off from a launching pad. And I became conscious of the fact that I might be getting lost in AOL here. But anyway, I kept going. So rocket it launches from the launching pad on the left, and it goes up into space. It cruises for a while, and then it separates out into the part where the people are, which floats back down to Earth, going back and forward, and finally lands. So I recorded that as an AOL, fixating on a rocket being launched into orbit. So time for another AOL break. I didn't tell it that I was taking an AOL break. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I went, oh, okay, I remember what happened. I just went straight on and did my stage 4. And the thing that came through next was for my emotional impact of the feelings in the scene were excitement and awe, and the feeling of being enclosed. It's not on this one, but it's on another one of these where I record emotional impact, where the occupants had a sense of joy, excitement, and having fun. That was a big thing that I got. So the AOL, the intangible was space travel, flight, long distance travel. And under AOL, I put space shuttle. It's a bit reminiscent of Richard Branson's trips into space. So,
wow. That does look like you're exploring boundaries there.
Yes. So my second block of stage 4 was the return trip. I had to bring the people back home safely, and enjoyment, fun. And for my stage 5, I chose the keyword of flight, and then came up with all of these different ideas, brainstorming these ideas under subjects, objects, and attributes. And then I took a too much break. I broke off at 16:17, and I finally got back to it at 21:50. How's that for a nice long break?
Wow.
I think I'd come back feeling very refreshed. So, so I did another of these, and that's where I got the excitement and anticipation emotional impacts from. Just picking the highlights.
Spectacular. Oh, I love that.
Light floating, spinning, white, airy, windy, white lights, and a spaceship re-entering the atmosphere. And then I did some more pictures, which is the starting launch pad, like Cape Canaveral or at NASA. You know, they bring the rocket out in its vertical position on a big platform, and then it takes off. And just as an aside as well, because Helen and I did the same target, and then we didn't talk about it until both of us had finished. But this looks similar to some of the things that Helen had in her drawings, particularly with the little circles on the side of the rocket. And we noticed that after we'd both done our sessions. So this is a picture of the rocket in orbit around the Earth. Another picture of the Fly-O, the whirligig, coming back to Earth. And that wavy line, I got that from the shape of my ideogram, had a wavy line like that. Like it's a sailing, descending line, and that's so all of these pictures have the descent being just sailing back and forth really slowly, so the people had time to look out the windows and enjoy the scenery back, looking down in Earth. It's dark this high up, even though it's daytime on Earth, and there was sort of people could choose to do it as a joy trip or travel to another side of the planet just as a joy flight in style. So that was the end of my handwritten notes, and then I typed up my summary, which I could go to. That's in another file. Should I do that?
Yeah, read through your summary.
All right. It's not very long, so I'll just that, and it is.
You probably have to unshare and reshare the right document, otherwise we can't see it.
That's it. Found it. All right. Can everyone see a whole lot of typewritten notes there?
Yay!
Yep. Yeah. So maybe I'll let people read it without reading it out myself. Can everyone see the text going along the right-hand side? Because the photos from the Zoom session cover up the right-hand side. Maybe I can...
yeah, I can see it all.
Resize the screen a little bit, maybe. Yeah.
So, yeah, because it wraps around. So I'll just give it a bit more height there, and I think I can fit it all in the one screen full. Yeah. Oh, look at... Oh, well, not quite. Get narrower. Now I did it. So it wrapped around. I'm just scanning through it myself to pick out the highlights.
Metallic silver pointed spacecraft. I like it.
Yes, it had to be pointy. I don't know why.
And it floats down like a piece of paper.
It actually sounds like a really good design for a space, something that you would travel in space with. I like that kind of almost propeller sort of idea, and then kind of floating back down.
Yeah. I love it. I love it, Rod. Do you think you can make it into an artwork or a sketch or a poster or a video or?
I've got no idea.
Well, that's your project for this week.
Well, actually, it's a bit, I'd have to be careful because since submitting, I recall that Richard Branson was starting up a scheme like this to people up into space for recreational purposes. And just, to say that people could say they'd actually been into space. But
he's been doing that for years.
He actually did get off the ground with it, did he?
Yeah.
All right. So in that sense, the concept, sorry?
but he hasn't got the idea that you have. So if you bring that out as an art competition, I would say, well, you might inspire some people.
It'd make a really good little short film.
Yeah.
You know, if you were, and if you could do those sort of computer graphs, where you show it as that, on the rails, the hard little cone thing flies up and it sort of emerges into this, that kind of propeller shaped thing, and then ends up, floating back down almost like a feather. It would be a really interesting kind of concept to take it from that really, hard structure to a really light thing that just floats back down to earth.
This is a bit like a skyrocket on cracker night, where the light floats down on a parachute and then slowly goes out towards hitting the ground.
I wish Axel was here. He does the 3D Blender stuff, and it's really good, really good. So he made a motion graphic for one of my logos. So yeah, he could do that. He could actually make that.
Yeah.
And what you've created, Rod, in your remote viewing session looks to me almost like a storyboard, like the story of it being on rails and going to a launch pad, being launched into space. You see the motion, you see this propellers, and then you see it sort of floating down. You really got a storyboard for a movie there, Rod.
I could do a PowerPoint.
So, okay.
So I'm intrigued about this target. It's a very open-ended target. So
it is.
In a sense, none of us would have. There's no limit to what the target could be.
No,
so
and the thing is,
no one has missed the target in that sense.
Well, the thing is that the goal is to submit something that is in line with your remote viewing session, and then see if that is the optimum one for the ASUS competition. That means that you win. Right? So the feedback will be, if you submit, if you decide to submit, if you win, then you got really good feedback.
Oh, I see. So we've yet to receive our feedback from the judges of the competition. Yes, I see what you're saying. So our success is really determined by how well we do in submitting the competition. So we're remote viewing ourselves successfully entering the competition, like receiving an award. Well, only one of us could get first prize, I suppose, but maybe there's room for runners-up amongst us.
There's several different categories, and there's several different prizes.
Well, that's true. Yeah, now I wasn't understanding that. So yes, I can see what you mean now. So
so have a go. Have a go at submitting.
Yes, because it's not about drawing ability or artistic ability. The focus is more on what we're portraying with the roughness of the drawings, isn't it? Would that be a correct way of?
The thing is that you can do it in photographs. You have to come up with a way that you can get that concept out in some sort of work of art. And it can be, you create it out of paper and you shoot a little video demonstrating this concept.
All right. Then, so the presentation is really the thing now.
Yeah.
So I just had the image of, remember in the old days, and how they used to do cartoons, and they would, draw it, and then each picture was a little different, and you flip it through a book, and you get the whole story.
Oh yes, yes.
That would, if you're not a film producer or something, that would be one way to, sort of get the whole, the the movement of everything.
Yeah.
In a little kind of story form.
Yeah, so to take time for us to learn how to present something digitally like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to do, but we haven't got the time for this competition.
Yeah, that's where you
Yeah.
just, you know, sketch on, you know,
It'll
little
have
pieces
to,
of paper.
for me, it will have to be
them.
a sketch. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think for me too.
All right, Rod, can we see Helen's?
Yes, I'll stop the share.
So I'm not sure how. I'd go to share screen. Oh, I see. Okay. All right then.
You select the document that you want to share.
Yes. Can you see it?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Yep. There it is.
So I just couldn't get away from, right from the beginning, I felt like I was on another planet, not Earth. And so I thought I can't, it stuck in my mind. So I put my pen down and just did it as an AOL and tried to just clear my mind and see what came, but it still kept coming back, that sort of theme. I could just see black sky, a distant horizon, a yellowish haze, and then red in the foreground coming up to, and there was nothing, just flat, featureless. And I was thinking, well, what do I say about this? There was nothing. And then slowly some other things became visible. So it's a black sky, yellow sort of mist on the far horizon, and which seemed to be coming slowly closer. This red, dusty sand in the foreground. And then I started to see green, and I started to see like a transparent dome in the foreground with vegetation inside it. And then I started to see condensation droplets on the inside of the dome. And there was a sort of a pipe coming out at the base. And that's all. I no idea what it was for. Then I had the sense that it was started to sense that it was conveying water away from the dome. And then I started to see something similar to what, sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Michele, sorry, I don't give
yeah.
my surname.
These little white things, it's funny, I started to see that too. Little white, but they were not like what you described as donut shaped. They were like crystalline, small, like you think of white quartz pieces, all sharp, hard, but they contain water. And
I like that one. AOL alien plants.
Planet.
Oh, planet.
I was still getting alien planet.
I thought it was alien plant.
These little white pieces of quartz-like, but water contained.
Okay.
Things. And then I started to see piles of them, and started to get the idea of growing and surviving and vulnerable, fragile, life-sustaining, reusable. This recycling thing kept coming up, and they were very lightweight for rocks, very lightweight. And then these the same sort of theme, just silent, black. There was no sound, there was no smell, no taste, just colors, really, the red, yellow, black. And then that was my impression, was lonely, sad, strange, challenged, resourceful, and survival. And the feeling there was just timeless, ancient, sterile, untold, unknown, dead, unforgiving, unyielding. And the tangible was these crystals, rock, dust, liquid, vegetation dome pipe, airless. And intangibles, hope, endeavor, construction, planning, creating, growing life. And the AOL was irrigation. And I said that was the signal line because I couldn't get away from the surface of the planet. So I thought, well, it has to be. So I thought, for me, the word survival was the main one that came to my mind in the brainstorming. So the objects were just the basic things that you would think associated with survival of a human that was required to survive. And the subjects were the knowledge that you would need to survive. You'd need to know about medicine, history, all of those things, and the attributes to survive in an alien place. So you'd need a sense of humor, hope, inspiration, ideas, discovery, innovation, cooperation, friendship, imagination, teamwork, understanding, positiveness, endeavor, observation, challenge, discovery, all of those. And subjects were all of psychology and health, physical exercise, protection, containment, transportation. And
that's
then,
a lot.
Yes, I kept getting those. And the sensory was this more or less green, succulent. I felt that the plants were succulent. There was a lot of moisture was involved in it. And then I started to get this idea, sort of like, Michelle, you had that idea of filtration. I was thinking of expanding and contraction. And what I felt about the impression I had about what I saw was that it was a very clever idea, ingenious, problem-solving solution, oxygen breathing, and so solving those problems, breathing and thirst. And then I started to get the feeling more deeply of what was associated with that place and those constructions, that the energy associated with it was also lost, barren, stunted, disconnected, dehumanized, dispirited, frustrated, feeling used, objectified. And the tangibles were constructions, buildings, designs, pipes, domes, crystals, water, atmosphere, breath, vegetation, and shelter. And the intangibles were silent, experimental, emotionless, dark, cold, distant, practical, soulless, shallow, materialistic, heartless, homesickness. And then the AOL, well, it was the AOLS.
Colonization.
I thought it was the signal, colonization. And then the pictures I got were, so I saw the pipe was transporting water away, and there was water condensation on the inner surface of the dome, vegetation, and on the base of the dome were these crystals. And then I saw more about what they were doing. They were sparkling white crystals containing water, sharp, hard, crunchy. And then they became dried out, and like the water was sucked out of them by some process, like, and given out to the plants, hence the condensation. And then the excess water was taken away through this pipe and brought to, so there were multiples of these domes, all connected by pipes.
Wow.
And the excess water, and they all came from the same place on the dome. I couldn't make it, and that's exactly, I wasn't allowed to put it, it's always on the bottom left-hand side, so I had to make them join up so that they were all allowed to become that left-hand bottom. They all that excess water came together to a central dome, which had just these piles of crystals in it, and it was in that dome that they were the water was reabsorbed and then recycled out to the plants. But I felt that it was also recycling somehow oxygen from the plants that the plants were giving out, as well as the water. So yeah, the recycling had a lot to do with it.
Wow.
So I did my summary, but like Rod, it's on a different, I'll have to go to another screen to read that out. Shall I do that?
Yeah, you can do if you want to.
Well, basically, I've told you. Yeah, that's basically what I said in the summary. So, yeah, and I said in the summary that I didn't see any other life forms here except for the plants, and if you like to think of rocks being sentient.
Interesting.
But I thought that I don't know, I sensed that somewhere in the background there were life forms, and they were absolutely miserable, so sad, dispirited, feeling used, dehumanized, disconnected from their roots, and feeling used and very homesick. That was the energy I was starting to feel, but I never saw them. I just sensed they must be there because they'd created this, basically.
Yeah.
Very much terraforming Mars, and it's going to be a long, lonely job for somebody.
Yeah.
This is Elon Musk's, plan for us.
Yeah.
Well, I was saying to Rod tonight, I think I'm on the wrong track because, their plan is to hybridize humans and connect us with AIs, because humans in our original state are not going to be efficient in space. So we have too many demands like air, water, food. So they'll probably won't be sending original humans out there. They'll be AI human interface creatures.
Yep. But this is how they'll start terraforming.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Someone on Earth has an avatar in space that is working on Mars. Now, technically, they do that in the mining industry here as well. Most of the things are done remotely now because mining is dangerous. And so they control vehicles remotely, they dig remotely, they go do the loading and unloading remotely. So it's getting more and more that way. And I think that, Western Australia is pretty much like Mars.
Yes.
So I think that they're trying these things out to, do the mining remotely without having humans to physically be at the mine. They're sitting in an office just working and controlling the equipment. So I'm thinking that it's probably going to be the similar thing where, instead of controlling equipment at a mine site, you control equipment on Mars to prepare for eventually maybe some humans coming over, but I don't think it will be initially. The initial people who go there will go on a suicide mission. Yeah.
For all we know, they're already there.
Could be.
I think from the feeling I got from this was that there were humans on that, wherever it was, but they were sort of miserable. So I've got that feeling more and more the longer the session went on, but I couldn't see them. It's just they were, I only saw the results of the work.
Interesting. Interesting. All right. So even if you do not submit to this competition, what you could do is at the end of the competition, see what image, what video, or what artwork has won. And if that artwork is somewhat like your sketch, Helen, that could be that you have sketched the winning concept. the concept is there,
That would
right?
be something.
So even if you don't want to submit, keep an eye out on. I was hoping one of you would at least submit, so we can sort of go and cheer and all vote on you. But and maybe because we haven't got Gabe here. Gabe is in the middle of a kendo competition, so he couldn't make it to the meeting. But Gabe has submitted some sessions as well. I won't show it because I haven't got his permission. I was hoping he would be here. Axel, I think, has been too busy. He hasn't submitted. Haven't seen Jade. And Maxime did try to submit, but she's not here. And I did see a sketch from her, but not a full session. So I think she had some trouble with scanning it in. So we still have some other people who have their work. And as I said, I can't show it because, yeah, they haven't given permission, so I won't do that.
Yep.
Or can I ask if any of those submissions were similar to any that the three of us have given in? Like in some respects, mine was similar to Michelle's, those little white things.
Yeah, so there's some similarities, but there's also differences. So, and most of what I've heard from Gabe, he said this is a weird one. It's a nice one, but a weird one. And it's like almost like he was in fairyland, you know. And that is what the whole concept is about, like explore boundaries, like explore what's, you know, come up with crazy things. That's basically it. Use your imagination, and this is what you've done. You've used your imagination, and I see some similarities between Michele and Helen, and I see some similarities between Rod and Helen as well.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting, and I do hope that you know, one of these sketches, or exactly all of these sketches, would be one of those winning concepts. So we'll have to wait until June, the end of June, to see what the result is. But I'm still quietly hoping that some of you will explore your artistic skills. I know one of you has artistic skills. Michele is really good, but she's doing mostly now. Well, you want to explain?
What I'm doing right now is probably different than what you know.
Oh, okay.
Were you thinking about the forensic reconstruction stuff? Is that what you were thinking?
Yes.
Yeah.
Helen,
yeah. No, I got it.
Could you stop sharing for a second so we can see everyone?
I was trying to. How do I do that? How do I close it?
Down the bottom, stop share.
Oh, stop share. I'm sorry. It is at the top. Yeah, sorry. I would have done that earlier if I'd known.
That's okay. All right. So, Michele, tell us, what are you doing?
Well, I have been doing some like forensic reconstruction, you know, where you get a skull and you reconstruct it to see what the person looked like. And so that's been fun. So I've been doing a lot of sculpture over the last couple of years, but just recently I've been transcribing my grandmother's memoirs from the 1930s, from when they lived in Vietnam, when it was under French rule. So that's been keeping me busy, just typing.
That sounds fascinating.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's not terribly artistic, but it's it was really interesting. Yes. I realized, actually, reading my grandmother's writings, she's incredibly descriptive, and I realize I really am not compared to, you know, how she describes things. And that's why a lot of times I think on my, when I do my reports, they're kind of minimal in words until I get to actually the summary, when I can kind of express the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
Anyway.
That's good. So very interesting.
Yes, I'll say.
Yes.
Do you do the forensic reconstructions? Is that your profession, or is that an interest?
It's just an interest, and actually Sandra is the one that kind of propelled me along, because Sandra, also does that as well. So, yeah, I saw that she had taken a course, that Sheffield University course. Yes. And I thought, oh, now that looks like fun. So, yeah, really, it was Sandra was the one who really kind of spurred me along. And yeah.
So you get the three-dimensional picture of the skull.
No, actually, what I did was I ordered resin casts of real skulls, and then reconstructed them. So, I had to go through the, learning the tissue depths and stuff. It's actually quite a bit of study beforehand, before you even try to reconstruct it. You have to determine, the age and the sex and the ethnicity and that sort of thing. And yeah, and then there's kind of guidelines that you follow. But you also have to have, some artistic skill as well, to make it look,
like a real person.
Like a real person. But unless you have the a picture of somebody, you don't know if you're on target. It's all kind of like this.
But Michele, can you show some?
I wonder if I can. I'll just see if I can. I'll go exit full screen. It's only showing one photo.
Do you ever have the opportunity of confirming what you've done, like if there's photos of the actual person, or are they too old for that?
So this unfortunately, I don't have the records of what they look like. So can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Red Nose Day.
Huh?
Red Nose Day.
Yeah. So that's the skull. Can you see all the pictures, or just one?
Yes.
Okay.
So
this is just shows how I go about determining what the nose looks like, and that's that red clay, and then you put in the eyeballs and the depth markers, and and then add the tissue, and it's really interesting clay to work with. And then in the end, hopefully you've got something that looks like a guy, if it's a male skull. So
that's amazing,
isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to do this, for law enforcement and stuff. I've sent a lot of emails and stuff out to people. I made a whole 68-page report on all of this, and I haven't heard back from anybody, but I keep trying and keep saying, look, you got a skull, you need somebody identified, let me have a crack at it.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so that
back to you. You'd think there'd be a need for that.
You would think so. One of the more interesting,
actually,
and it's a very complex study. And what I admire most, you see the eyeballs that she actually made those herself. I'm so impressed. I was so impressed when I heard that.
What are they made from? Resin.
I made them from bakeable, that clay that you just bakeable clay. This was a really fascinating way because it's an elongated skull from Peru. And it's actually 2,000 years old, the skull itself. And so because the skull was so beautifully cast, I made a cast of it in plaster before I reconstructed it. So I did a sort of a younger version. I cast ears, and then I I knew this skull was actually older, so I actually ended up aging it, and then adding hair and stuff like that. So that's sort of what it ended up looking like.
Because it's a mystery about those skulls, whether, you know, they used to deliberately, some cultures have deliberately deformed the skulls, but
these
in imitation of
and they actually could be, there could have been a sort of a subgroup of humans that had these, because the cranial capacity is larger than normal. And I mean, you know, you can bind a head, but how do you actually make the volume bigger? So there's some really weird anomalies about the skulls themselves. But yeah, anyway, so that's that's a little bit of
I love that one, because you even did research on the traditional clothing in that area. So you put a lot of research into it. I love that.
Yeah, it was really interesting, because there's a lot of books that give they've done tons of tissue depth studies, you know, over the last, you know, 100 years or so, and maybe almost 150 years. But they've done them different ways. They've done them, you know, obviously when the person's dead. They've done them with you know, ultrasound. So they've done them when somebody's been embalmed or when they haven't been. So the tissue depth vary from study to study. So you have to almost do a kind of an average. But yeah, and the whole thing's it's really fascinating. And I would be thrilled if somebody wanted to, you know, send me a skull and let me have a go at trying to, you know, identify a real case. That would be really cool.
A resin printed one then.
The resin ones, they're amazing. You order from overseas, from Bone Clones. It's a place that does them, and they're beautifully done. But they don't have. There's only one that has, I think, a photographic record. But they only sell them to learning institutes, and I'm not a learning institute, so they won't sell it to me. So I have to just guess on the other ones.
Yeah, I don't understand the rationale for not letting you're a learner. I don't understand.
Well, you know, it's just you know, there's a lot of sort of, you know, ethical stuff around you know, the dead, and you know, so you have to sort of be, you know, sensitive to you know, not you know, reconstructing something that the family might go, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway,
what about people that leave their bodies to science? They could be asked to leave their skulls to people who are learning reconstruction.
I've joked with a few friends and said, just leave me your skull when you're done with it.
So I only want their head. I don't want the rest of the body.
Exactly.
Very interesting work.
Yes, this has been shown on television, doing this kind of work. There was a documentary about an archaeological dig. I forget where it was, but the bones that were dug up were many thousands of years old. Maybe it might have been in the UK somewhere. And anyway, the job was to reconstruct what the person actually looked like from the skull. And they did come up with a very interesting model of what that person would have looked like all those thousands of years ago.
Yeah, I've seen some of them, and there's a few artists that do that are extremely good. They get it so close to, you know, so realistic. It's just amazing.
I love your work too, Michelle. I love your work too. You're doing a great job at it. Wow.
Thanks.
Yes. It's interesting how you get into these unusual what leads you into those paths.
So in conclusion, what are we going to do? Are we going to wait until the voting of the jury is done, or are you going to submit and have a shot?
I have to say I'm a little intrigued, and if I got some really good photos of like sea eggs, I don't know if I've actually got any on hand, but it would be fun to play around them, with it in Photoshop and kind of change the image and have it go.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And submit, and
not
then
a lot of time. Yeah.
Right. Did you like this particular exercise? It's different.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
It is different. I mean, I think I prefer to have a target, because it is a little bit, like whatever.
I know. I wanted to do something to surprise you all, and something that was unexpected, because eventually it's like all either scientific or solving puzzles, or maybe archaeology, or solving technology things. And I thought, okay, now something creative, artistic. So, and this came up, and I was like, yes, this is a good one, because I also have to look at, can everyone participate? So in this case, everyone from around the world can participate. Only requirement is 18 years or older. All my students are 18 years or older. So it's something that everyone could do if they wanted to. And again, it's your session. You determine what you want to do with it. If you say, no, I'm fine, I'll just put it on the shelf and wait for the results of the competition and then see if I've got anything close to that. Yeah, that's fine too. But this is just another way of using remote viewing for creative purposes. So it's not just science. It's not just cases we work on. It's not just technical solutions to problems. It can just be used for fun, creative things. So
so can it be that when you say using remote viewing for creativity, can that be another way of saying the target is what you will or would have created in the future, or what will be created if it's not yourself?
Yeah.
Does that actually equate to the same thing, because it's across a time barrier?
Yeah. So anything that a person can think of will at some stage exist. I mean, Jules Verne was sketching submarines and spacecraft way before anyone ever thought that we would be on the moon. So in his mind, he was already there. He was already in the deep ocean. He was already on the moon. He sketched things that were for his time just fantasy. When I looked at, the Star Trek, you see the tricorder that the Doctor has. These things already exist. The tricorder diagnostic tool already exists. So the technology...
Activate emergency medical holographic program.
Yeah. I mean, we now have virtual doctors online. You're chatting with, most of the time, a diagnostic robot. If you're asking a diagnostic program online, you have the virtual doctor, because the virtual doctor is just some medical database with artificial intelligence that asks you what your symptoms are and gives you the answer in the database. That's it. So we have the holographic doctor. Okay, it's not a hologram, but it's an artificial intelligence that can diagnose most of the common things. So So yes, anything we can think of can become reality.
I was listening to a podcast the other day with Daz Smith, and they're doing that cryptocurrency remote viewing now.
Yes.
And he said he's increased his initial investment was like, I don't know, 6,000 times or something. I mean, it was impressive. But then again, that's Daz Smith. I think he's
yes. If you want to do it financially, if you want to go into financial markets, it has been done. It has been done by SRI, as you said, has been done by Des Smith, and he does crypto. I bought some crypto, but I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just, I'm not a crypto person. But I mean, Russell Target, the silver markets. They had the stock markets. Stephen Schwartz has done it. So yes, it is possible. And it's using a bit of common sense with intuition is a very powerful tool. Very powerful tool. All right. I'm going to leave you and think about this. And I'm going to send you the feedback form with the links where you can find the competition, and you can keep an eye on it. And definitely in about a month's time, we'll discuss it again. How about that?
Great.
Get the true feedback.
Thanks, Sandra.
Thank you.
And nice to meet you, Rod and Helen, and really interesting sessions. And yes, that was good fun.
Yes, good to meet you too.
Definitely. Thank you all for sharing.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.